So great pleasure to welcome on Endoscopy On Air Darin Wilson. Darin Wilson is a business unit director for Medtronic GI for the entire Europe, and is long-term friend. So I think I met first time Darin in 1999. Is that correct, Darin?
I think so. Maybe even
Wow.
earlier, but certainly 20 years now.
Wow, that's good. So at the time you were working for Boston, and afterwards you had a fabulous career. Can you tell us what has been the evolution in the last 20 years of your career? It's very interesting.
Well, I started out as basically a product manager and had a team of product development people in at Boston in the endoscopy group in the mid 90s. And with that, most of our work was done in Europe because of the FDA requirement. So over the course of 10 years, I met a number of, at the time, younger endoscopists like Jacques Devier, Horst Neuhaus, Guido Costamagna, and others. And I really got to appreciate and like what was going on in Europe. So when the opportunity came to move to Europe, I took it and became the marketing director for the, at the time, Boston Scientific's endoscopy group and moved to Paris, where I met my wife, who was my HR manager at the time at Boston.
I will remember this.
Yeah. So then I was there for 5 years and moved to Southeast Asia, where I switched to cardiology to see what all the fanfare was about. And after about 4 years in cardiology, both in Singapore and back in here where I am now in Lausanne with Medtronic, Greg Barrett, who I worked with at Boston, asked me to start the international division of Barracks, which became part of Covidian, which became part of Medtronic, where it is now. And while I was there at Barracks, met a lot of really great people. I think you and I got started even earlier when we were at Boston, but continued it with Barracks. And my first employee is now my boss's boss, Giovanni Di Napoli,
Who's a very good friend of mine also.
Gastrointestinal OU. And it's been a great ride to see him progress as much as he has. So at least that hire was very successful. And after that, I left. I was with Barracks for 5 or 6 years, but I got the startup itch again. So after Covidian acquired Barracks, I moved to Fractal, which was working on something really exciting to help treat metabolic disorders and kind of helped create this whole space of metabolic endoscopy that is very much in the limelight right now. After Fractal, they decided they wanted to focus more on the U.S. and prepare for their U.S. pivotal trial and hopeful launch. Joe asked me to come back and help out here at Medtronic, and it was compelling because they've got a lot of innovative things going on, which is consistent with what I've tried to do throughout my career. And that's where I am now.
So that's great. So if I look back to Medtronic about 5 years ago, in the space of GI, the impact of the company was not that big, was minimal. Now it's huge impact. So you built a fantastic portfolio. So can you tell us how did you bring all this innovation in?
Well, the GI business within Medtronic is basically a conglomerate of a number of acquisitions, and it was done so that we could accelerate access for these therapies into the market. So at first it was Barracks, then that big acquisition of Given, Beacon Endoscopy, which was acquired thereafter. And then that was part of Covidian. Covidian was acquired by Medtronic. Since then, we've added Crossbond, we've added now distribution agreements for Archimedes bioabsorbable stent, GI Genius artificial intelligence. We've got a knife and a traction wire line coming, Prodigy, and a number of others that are going to be behind it. And most notably, Next Powder. And that's consistent with our strategy to either make or bring into the portfolio through distribution agreements or even acquisitions. So I think it's been one of the things in GI we've probably lacked the amount of innovation and inclusion when you compare it to cardiology or some of the other divisions. So it's nice to see that there's a commitment on Medtronic's part to get into the space more wholly.
I have no doubt you are the company that brought more innovation in the last 5 years in the space of GI. So congratulations to you, your team, to Joe, of course, is doing a great job. So AI, I think it's now one of the most important part of your business. So well, how you see AI in endoscopy?
Well, we're committed to AI. You'll see it first now with GI Genius, but we've got through our given acquisition, we've got the PillCam line, which is the market leader in that space, and it is ripe for innovation. And we've got a really, I think, fully developed program that will leverage both what we're doing with GI Genius, but also what will come in the future for capsule endoscopy. And that is kind of core to who we are as an operating unit. So AI will obviously help improve detection. I think it's one of those areas that has been ripe for innovation now. I think a lot of people would say that the gastrointestinal field has been a follower, not a leader in artificial intelligence in the medical field, and it's a good sign that we're going to catch up.
And I understand that GI Genius is not just AI for colonoscopy, it's much broader concept. So this is going to capture most of the procedures that we're doing, a guide our practice, not only in colonoscopy and capsule. Is that correct?
Well, I mean, that's the plan down the road. I think we're taking it one step at a time, trying to make sure that this is working well and that it's fully integrated. It's a challenge in a way too, because you can only dance as fast as the music is running, and if the physician community hasn't yet fully identified or seen the value that it brings, you can bring the best technology, but if they don't see the value, it's you're not going to move as fast as you would hope. And I think for all of the industry, we've been very consistent and diligent about trying to bring it. Now we're producing more data, the data you know well, randomized controlled trials, which is what's been expected of new therapies. So we're committed to doing that. And that first paper that you were involved in, I think, is a landmark paper for this space, and it helped really validate the AI's role in early detection and what it can do for patients.
Darin, when you meet a physician who may be skeptical on the impact of AI, so what are the arguments you normally use to give evidence about AI and the power of AI?
Well, there are a couple. Some are qualitative and some are quantitative, if you will. The qualitative aspects are more human and emotional, which is there is just no way a human with a pair of eyes can recognize, particularly as the quality and the resolution of the endoscopy images gets better. It taxes the eye and it makes it more difficult over a course of a full day. And I think anybody that's sitting in front of a screen today doing Zoom calls all day could recognize and relate to the fatigue it causes both to your eyes, but also mentally. And if you are the unlucky patient at the end of the day, who's number 12 or 13 on the colonoscopy list, you'd like to have the same quality of inspection as the first patient.
Otherwise, you may risk your life.
Yeah, it's just not always possible. So from a humanistic perspective, this is a big aid. It's what we call the great equalizer. Quantitatively, we've proven through these RCTs that it does help. And I think what you're going to see moving forward, there was a paper in the BMJ that talked about hospitals in the UK that are not in bowel cancer screening centers. Their rates of interval cancer were higher than bowel cancer screening centers, which makes sense. And so if you have a tool like this, why not make it available to everyone? It'll raise the ADR rates. It'll find more cancers probably, and or precancers. And then it will become the standard of care, I think, once people start to recognize it. You know, for me, this is a lot like what single use went through in the early 2000s. People fought it. They didn't think it was of value. And now we've got endoscopes that are disposable. So
if I look at the data of ADR from different institutions, different physicians, I recognize there is such high variability. And of course, I will be scoped by the guy with the top ADR rather than the one with the lowest. So I think AI can help in democratize this ADR concept. Everybody should be on the upper level of the bar, no?
Well, that's what we hope. And if you can use technology help get you there, I just don't see why you wouldn't want to do that.
And also, there is no big barriers in because when you're using it's not changing your practice, it's not giving noise, it's not giving any problem, no?
It's straightforward. That was the intent and the design of at least GI Genius, which was we can work with virtually every endoscopy system. It's agnostic, and it's got an early plug and play feature to it, so it's quick and
I don't know if it's too early or if you can disclose this. Is there any new about the prediction system of GI Genius?
it's coming. We'll just put it like that.
Oh,
It's
good.
coming in the not too distant future.
Okay, so soon we will have a system allowing us detection and prediction as well. Is that correct?
Well, that's the plan. Yeah.
Okay, good. So, Darin, I've been working with Medtronic since many years, especially because of Joe and other guys that um, have proposed us to do a lot of studies and look into innovation. So I recognize in your company a couple of values like passion, commitment, dedication to innovation. So can you summarize what are the values of the company you're representing today?
Sure. Well, first of all, Medtronic, we're the largest medical device company in the world. There are 90,000 employees in 150 countries around the world. And what's always been reassuring to me is that the patient is at the forefront of everything that they're doing. And there is an incredible underlying current of that culture throughout the company. And we talk about the Medtronic mission quite often with Earl Bakken and what he started in the late 50s. And through today, you will get a medallion for starting with Medtronic, which is a reminder of why we're here. And if anybody is really, really interested in the altruistic side, the value of bringing innovation to patients, it's Medtronic, and it's been in DNA since the late 50s, and it continues. And it's one of the reasons I came back to the company was because that is at the forefront of what they're doing. Yes, they are investing. We have over $2 billion a year in R&D in Medtronic.
Wow.
And
2 billions.
To over 2 billion in
wow.
R&D, and that's something that the patients will benefit from. Absolutely, we see it in all the divisions, right? One of the beauties of Medtronic is we're virtually in every space in healthcare right now, and bringing that kind of innovation. Plus, there are a lot of smart people here that are fun to work with.
That's correct. So then in 2 days we will have Endoscopy On Air, and this is also innovation, virtual and not in person, but we're missing a lot in-person meeting, and I hope we can come back all together to have a drink and to spend some time all together. In the meantime, what is your vision of Endoscopy On Air? How are we progressing? Are we going in the right direction?
I think so. It's interesting, Ali. I was talking with someone earlier today, and we were talking about, even for our own internal meetings, that in this time of the year, which is the start of our fiscal year, we would bring everybody together to bond, to talk about our future plans. And if I proposed to someone that I got 200 people into a room, but instead of us, I would walk up on the stage onto a podium and sit down behind a computer screen and ask all 200 of them to sit behind a computer screen in the same big room, no one would do it. It's just not as personal. So there's that human element we're missing. And I think Endoscopy On Air is been one of the most effective at adapting to take the difficult parts of it and make it better, which is you are bringing new therapies to parts of the world that never would have seen or had experience with this. They couldn't have flown to Milan. And so this concept of doing it, basically following the sun, as they say, with your endoscopy procedures and making people around the world available to your techniques, your expertise, and the team that you've assembled, this fantastic faculty, is exceptional. And so there are some things that aren't really great about COVID, as we all know, but there are things that have come out of this, like this acceleration and innovation that you guys have done, that we will keep. So that's been the good part. And I think Endoscopy On Air is right at the forefront of that.
Okay, then in the last point, more personal. So if I remember well, you grew up in Texas and now you're living in Switzerland. What is the difference? How you feel living in this side of the Europe?
Well, my wife is French, so for us, her family is very close by, and that's it's very important for me. Plus, I play European football, and I just live in Texas, so it's a much safer and better place to be here.
What is your team?
My favorite team. Well,
don't make any mistake, please.
Juventus.
There is a lot of people listening to you.
I like a lot of teams, but
okay, very political answer. Yes. Okay, I will stop.
Maldini here. Is my favorite player. So
really? Okay, good. Okay, so thank you. Thanks. Congratulations for your incredible career, for a fabulous career. Congratulations for your company. So big, but so passionate. Patients forefront. So that's great. And I hope you keep bringing innovation to us. Thanks,
Ali. Thanks for having us, and thanks. Looking forward to a great meeting on Friday.
Ciao.